And Julia Manchester, national political reporter for The Hill. Julia, let's dive a little deeper into this rift between former President Trump and former VP Pence and what Pence's campaign stop for Kemp actually symbolizes for 2024.
Well, Adrienne, it quite obviously symbolizes a rift between the two going into this potential primary. We know that neither candidate has officially announced, or neither Trump nor Pence have officially announced that they are running for president, but they are very seen as potential hopefuls for the GOP presidential primary. And this really, at the end of the day, in Georgia, appears to be showing a shadow primary between these two men. You have Vice President Pence, who very much worked to certify the 2020 presidential election. And we saw that Brian Kemp, the governor, certified that election in Georgia. On the other side, you have President Trump, who was peddling this lie that the election was stolen from him. And we have Senator David Perdue, or former Senator David Perdue, who very much has gone along with Trump. So we're seeing two different parts of the GOP, two different almost ideological in terms of the 2020 election divisions of the GOP really happening between Trump and Pence here in this, what I would say is a shadow primary.
A Trump spokesperson saying that Pence was, quote, set to lose a governor's race in 2016 before he was plucked up and his political career was salvaged. Now desperate to chase his lost relevance, Pence is parachuting into races hoping someone is paying attention. Strong words, but is there any truth to that? I mean, he was very popular as a vice president among the GOP.
He was very popular as a vice president, and we see that former Vice President Pence has held a lot of views that are very line up with some of the most conservative parts of the Republican Party, including the anti-abortion movement. He is very much seen as an ally to most Republicans. The issue is, though, we've seen that President Trump has gained dominance in the GOP as the de facto head of the GOP. So I think that statement from the Trump camp essentially putting down Pence shows how big of a rift this has really occurred between these two men. In a way, I think they've benefited from each other. They benefited from each other during the 2016 presidential campaign and the Trump administration, and very much raising their profiles. But now I think this has really turned into almost a Republican Party civil war.
Why has Governor Kemp managed to stay so far ahead in these polls?
It's interesting. In campaign world, we talk about an incumbent advantage. Brian Kemp is the incumbent governor in Georgia. He is very popular among Republicans in Georgia. So going into a Republican primary, it makes sense that Governor Kemp would do well. However, for someone like David Perdue, I find it fascinating that he's continued to run on this campaign message of the big lie, of, this lie that the election was stolen from former President Trump, because we know that in 2020, when Brian Kemp and, David Perdue and former Senator Kelly Loeffler were running for re-election, and in early 2021, they very much took that message and ran with it in Georgia, and President Trump campaigned on that message. Well, they're no longer senators anymore. So I think that shows how strong of a message, or I should say how weak of a message, this idea that there is widespread election fraud is among Georgia voters and Georgia Republicans. You can just see it in the polls today.
And really quickly for you, we have 30 seconds. Polls have shown former President Trump far ahead in a hypothetical 2024 GOP matchup. But do we have any statistical data on where former Vice President Pence would stand?
We do know in most polls, Pence is far behind. In fact, in a lot of polls I've seen, it's former President Trump and then Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, behind by sometimes double digits. So former President Trump is clearly the top dog in this potential primary going into 2024. But, if we're going to watch Republican primary politics, Adrienne, I would look to where I am in Florida to see where this shadow primary is playing out. We have this rivalry between Trump and Pence, but I would watch the dynamic between Trump and DeSantis, two allies. However, we do know that DeSantis' star has risen over the past couple of years, and we know that he is certainly floated as a potential 2024 contender.
Yeah, that's been being talked about for months now. Julia, thank you so much. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to click on the red subscribe button below so you can get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.